We are live. We are live. We are live. I'm Dr. Frita, and welcome to another Medical Monday. We're having a lunchtime live, and right here, we talk about medicine in the news and all of the hot health headlines in the news. Okay, we're going to talk about all of it. We have quite a bit to talk about today. I am Dr. Frita. So we're talking about Oprah. You know, I love it when Oprah's in the headlines. She did an interview where she talks about an urgent message on living well. So we'll talk about her message, and then we'll talk about some of the health problems she shared, including arthritis, where she had to have a knee replacement, including obesity, including mental health issues. So, we'll talk about Oprah. And then let's talk about HIV. I'm so excited to be living in this era where HIV is no longer a death sentence. There was a time where if you had HIV AIDS, then there wasn't really much we could do. Now we see all the commercials. We see that people are doing much better, living well with HIV, but we can't forget that HIV is still here. It's very transmissible. In South Carolina has been hit with 15,000 cases. So we'll talk about that and what to do to prevent HIV. Then I'd like to talk about Richard Simmons. I don't know about you, but when I was a little girl, my mama used to have the Richard Simmons VHS tapes. He had the little short shorts and the curly hair, positive guy. We know that he recently passed away. Well, now we know the reason. It's been exposed that he had multiple falls. And so we'll talk about Richard Simmons, and then we'll talk about falls, fall risks, and fall prevention. So if you or a loved one is at risk for falls, you definitely want to tune in. If you have an older person in your life who's been falling, listen, we'll talk about some fall prevention. And then we'll talk about the weight loss shots. Oh, we keep talking about the weight loss shots. Well, guess what? We've got some good news. Some of these weight loss shots have been shown to reduce the risk for diabetes by 94%. Lastly, in keeping with staying healthy and happy, we'll talk about a mom has figured out how to have a salad bar in her house. All right, go ahead and like this video and share as you come in. I'm Dr. Frita. Let's get started with Medical Monday. All right, we are live. We are live. I'm Dr. Frita. Make sure you go ahead and like as you come into this room. Let's talk about these hot health topics, and make sure you get your questions together, because on every live, I do a live Q&A. I answer your questions off the cuff. We can talk about the topics today. And of course, I'm a board certified kidney doctor and high blood pressure doctor. So you can always ask me questions about kidneys and high blood pressure. So go ahead and get your questions together. All right, let's get going. My co-host and my practice manager, Shador, come on to the stage.
Hey, Dr. Frita.
Hey there. How you doing, Shador?
Oh, super nervous today. I don't know why. We've done this like 1,000 times, but I don't know.
I don't, maybe it's because we have a new time. And shout out to those of you who've been with us from the start. We start off doing these at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, due to scheduling issues and just trying some new things out, we've been doing them at noon Eastern Standard Time. To all of our regulars who come around, you know who you are. We appreciate you, and we hope you'll find us in the noontime hour as well. Well, Shador, I know this has been quite a weekend for me. My oldest daughter, I know y'all have heard me talking and bellyaching about it, but she started school. She is a freshman, and I took her down a couple of weeks ago for pre-drill for the FAMU Florida A&M Marching 100 band. Well, it wasn't that simple. They had to make the cut. They were in pre-drill for I won't even tell you how many hours a day, and they had to learn the entire halftime show in a matter of 2 weeks. That sounds like an impossibility, but apparently it was not, because they played this weekend at Center Park Stadium. It was FAMU versus Norfolk. We won, and the band really, really won. That performance was immaculate. My daughter did make the cut. She's in the trumpet section. Shout out to Amara. Shout out to the entire band, to Dr. Chipman, to Mr. Smith, to Dr. Nicholas Thomas, who is the conductor, and just to everyone who really makes this HBCU shine and run well. FAMU is the #1 public HBCU in the nation. I'm very proud that my daughter's there and that she's a part of the Marching 100. So after this live, please mosey on over to my Instagram at dr.frita. Y'all know I have different content on my Instagram than I have here. And I did a post of the show, not the whole show. I just did a little snippet of the show and getting a chance to go and seeing my daughter perform with the Marching 100. So after this live, going over to Instagram, give me a follow. You'll find some really more personal content over there. But meanwhile, back over here on our YouTube, let's get this live going. If you have not already subscribed, please make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, Dr. Frita. I'm very proud to say that we have over 750,000 subscribers on this channel. We take pride in giving you evidence-based information. I am a medical doctor with multiple board certifications. I'm a board certified kidney doctor and hypertension doctor. I'm a nephrologist. I have also been board certified in pediatrics, internal medicine, and obesity medicine. So I like to learn. And more importantly, I like to share my knowledge, that's what we're about to do right now. So let's get into it. Let's start off talking about HIV. Again, we know that we've had really great treatments and prevention for HIV, but we can't forget that it is a very serious virus. It's a serious virus. And when it initially became common, it was thought of as the disease for those folks over there. The high-risk population was considered to be men having sex with men. And to be honest, when that was the case, our government didn't really act too swiftly as far as coming up with treatments. But very rapidly, as we know, unfortunately, it spread into all communities. We know Black women are at very high risk of having HIV and dying from HIV. Straight women, straight men, white men, folks who, just everybody, okay? Even children, can be born with HIV when they get it congenitally, or they can get it if they're having sex as teenagers. So anybody can get it, but you definitely want to know how to prevent it, because South Carolina has taken a hit. There have been 15,000 recent cases in South Carolina. Let's roll the clip.
South Carolina's Department of Public Health says almost 15,000 people, including about 200 kids and teens, are living with HIV infection or AIDS here in South Carolina.
Our Caroline Spikes joins us live from Palmetto Community Care, which is offering some free HIV testing.
And Caroline, why did they say this is so important to acknowledge?
Well, Michael and Justin, the director of marketing and development, Richard Reams here, says it's important for them to try to break down barriers and any stigmas that may come with HIV testing.
People might not even be aware that the CDC recommends that every person receives at least one HIV test in their lifetime.
South Carolina is ranked in the top 10 states and territories in the U.S. for HIV positive cases per 100,000 people. Reams says that's why it's important to them and their organization to build a safe, accessible environment in the Low Country.
I think the more concerning part is that the South continues to rank so high in the per capita diagnosis. It's not necessarily that there are more, it's just that we're not making the dent that we should.
The Campaign for Southern Equality's Director of Gender Justice, Ivy Hill, says breaking down a stigma is one of their top priorities.
I think there's a lot of that old rhetoric sort of left over that to be HIV positive is like a death sentence, and that's just really not the case.
They say, as someone who is not only an advocate, but a member of the LGBTQ plus community as well, that medication and treatment have come a long way, offering more options if someone does test HIV positive.
It's not a scary thing. It's quick, it's easy. And if you do get a positive, like I said, medicine has come so far.
They add that if you do get a positive result, at least you know in order to combat the diagnosis so you can live a happy, healthy life. Palmetto Community Care not only offers free testing, but also offers additional medical care.
A whole plethora of options, but it starts with knowing your status, because you can't know what you need until you know where you are.
Very good. All right, Shador, who is the first person in the chat today, please?
Yes, ma'am. So our first person today is Miss Aline.
Hi, Miss Aline.
She says, hello, happy Monday. And
happy Monday.
I can't really type much because I am at work, but I am listening. Hi,
all right,
Aline.
all right. Very good. Thank you. Now, don't get in trouble at work now. Don't tell them Dr. Frita sent you. But yes, we'll give you some knowledge while you work. Good whistle while you work. So yes, put a 1 in the chat if you knew that the recommendation was for everyone to have at least one HIV test in your lifetime. At least one HIV test in your lifetime. Put a 1 if you knew that. A lot of people don't know that. But as I was saying, especially when I was early in my training, Now, actually, by the time I was in training, they started to have some treatments that were better. Still, they had a lot of side effects, but it was considered to be a death sentence at first if you had HIV/AIDS. But now, here's what's really great. It's not just about treating, it's about preventing. There's so many medications that you can take now to reduce your risk of getting HIV by 99%. It's just a matter of getting the medicine. And that's where the stigma part is, because a lot of people who are considered to be at high risk, if you have multiple sex partners, if you have partners where you don't use contraception, you don't use condoms, and still, if you're in the community, men having sex with men, then it is still considered to be a high risk group. But here's the other thing. If you're in none of those groups and you're in what you think is a monogamous relationship, newsflash, not to be gloom and doom, the relationship might not be monogamous like you think that it is. And so many people are at risk. So make sure that you go ahead and get your test for HIV if you have it, that you still use protection, and that you talk about prevention. One thing that really gets me, and this does tend to be a cultural thing, it seems, and I'm talking from my own experience, so this is my experience. This is what it is. I will say that we know historically, as far as numbers, when you talk about men having sex with men, specifically Black men having sex with men, 1 out of every two by statistics will test HIV positive. 1 out of every 2 Black men having sex with men will test HIV positive. It's a very high risk group for many reasons, probably largely stigma. And I'll go ahead and say this part, I'm slipping into opinion, for my personal opinion. I know, being a member of the Black church all of my life, very oftentimes we would see it being preached from the pulpit, it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And the pastor would spend hours out of, a month just preaching against homosexuality, right? And you might find that the same pastor might have his own set of sins, be it adultery, be it, sleeping with women in the church. I won't go all the way there, but there was a great stigma, in my experience, in the Black church. Same picture, you might look up in that church where, it's being preached against. And in the choir stand, you might see people who, or you've heard the rumor mill, whichever, are men having sex with men or gay men, but they're showing up, they're in denial, and because it's stigmatized. So for anyone who's listening to the sound of my voice, if you think you might be in a high risk category, talk with your physician, forget the stigma, because a lot of people think that if they take a preventive HIV pill, then they're admitting that they're doing high risk behavior. There are women, definitely who take the pill because they know that if you're in a population, and you're out there and you're dating, you're at a higher risk. So get rid of the stigma, please. If you think you even might be at high risk, talk about this preventive med. Again, certain medications that prevent HIV can knock your chances of getting it down by up to 99%. And certainly always remember the condoms. So South Carolina, I'm sorry that's happening to you. I'm in the South, and Atlanta is everywhere, and HIV can still come to a town near you. So let's be smart. Let's be preventive. Let's not be judgmental. Okay. And let's try to get this HIV thing under control. All right. Now, Shador, I'd like to talk about Richard Simmons. And did anyone put a 1 in the chat where they knew that was a recommendation where, getting tested at least once in your lifetime?
Yes, there are a few ones.
Who put some 1s?
Debbie.
Okay. Hi, Debbie. You knew. Okay.
Queen of Weeds.
Queen of Weeds. Ooh, she knew. All right. Hello.
Miss Pat D.
Miss Pat D. Very smart.
And DJ.
Okay. DJ. Go DJ. That's my DA. All right. So good. And what's that?
I have a comment from Alicia.
Oh, hi, Alicia.
Hi. She says, hello, Dr. Frita. Someone told me that doctors are offering HIV kidneys to transplant recipients.
Oh, that even if you have HIV, that you can get a kidney transplant?
No, that they're offering HIV kidneys to transplant recipients. That's what someone told me.
Oh, okay. Okay. So let me tell you about that. Number one, to get the most accurate information, you want to talk to the transplant center. I'll go with what I thought you said at first, and then I'll move into your question. So patients who have HIV, there was a time where they weren't eligible for transplants because they felt like when you gave them the medicine to suppress their immune systems, that it would also cause them rejection. We've gotten past that. We have certain treatments, certain protocols, depending on the academic center. So if you are a person who's living with HIV and you have kidney failure, please do talk to your physician, talk to your kidney doctor, your nephrologist, because we do give kidney transplants to patients with HIV. Now, what you said about, you heard that people are giving HIV kidneys to kidney transplant patients. So, we always have different research going on. And because we are at such a shortage of kidneys, there have been certain kidneys that we offer to kidney transplant recipients that have shocked me. And they always start off in research mode. So, including with viruses. Hepatitis. We know that hepatitis is a virus that can cause kidney failure, that can cause liver failure, can cause all kinds of things. We do offer hepatitis, that virus. We offer hepatitis kidneys to certain kidney transplant recipients. When this first happened, I had a fit because I'm like, oh my gosh, why would you offer someone a kidney that has hepatitis? Why would you set them up like that? Further research has been done. And we found that we can reduce the amount of hepatitis in kidneys to such an insignificant amount, or even wipe it out, that we have patients who are doing well with hepatitis kidneys. I can tell you about a patient of my own. 10 years ago, he was offered a kidney from someone who was hepatitis positive. I said, do not take that kidney. He said, Doc, I just don't like being on dialysis. And if I have to stay on dialysis, I just don't see how I can make it. He was young. He was young when he started dialysis, late 20s. He got the kidney, and sure enough, they had to eradicate the hepatitis out of the kidney. And 10 years later, he's still going strong with that kidney. Now, for the HIV, I can't tell you specifically about if it is still in research as far as, something that people are trying out or not. But just to put it out there, it is possible that this is something that's being researched. Here's the other piece to it. There are a lot of patients, and I deal with this firsthand, who are in their 70s, in their 80s, who have very high quality of life. But when it comes down to getting a kidney transplant, a lot of times they're not looked at as being on the top of the list because they're thought of as having a lower life expectancy, right? Well, there are certain kidneys that aren't necessarily the best kidneys, meaning the person who's donating the kidney might have a little bit of CKD. They might have CKD stage 2, for example, or a really, really high CKD stage 3. The percentage of the kidney function is down. And so it's not a great kidney, not an optimal kidney. But if it's a patient who is, say, 85 years old, and they're like, look, I just don't want to be on dialysis, I don't have that much time left statistically, they may take that kidney knowing that kidney does not have as long of a life expectancy. And so we can get more into detail, because whether this is experimental or if it's actually been an overall protocol is something that's yet to be seen. I don't know of patients who have actually received an HIV kidney. I know that is something that has been talked about as far as research is concerned. I do know of and have patients who've gotten hepatitis kidneys and kidneys that are suboptimal. But, there's always different layers to the story. There are different layers to the story. And I could tell you that an HIV kidney would never, ever, 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 ever be approved if the HIV were still in the kidney. And I personally, just like I was with hepatitis, that's not something that I would support. If I learn more information on it, then I will come back and tell you. But as it stands now, because with hepatitis, we do have some cures where we can actually wipe out the hepatitis. We have HIV treatment. We can get HIV down to a level that's very, very low or even undetectable. But as it stands, we actually don't have a cure for HIV. So that would give me pause. Yeah. But thank you for bringing that.
Yes, thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Dr. Frita.
Yeah. All right. So now let's talk about Richard Simmons. Okay. Put a 2 in the chat if you remember Richard Simmons. Put a 2 in the chat if you remember Richard Simmons, and what was your favorite tape. I'll tell you what mine was, if y'all know of any, or anything that you really liked about Richard Simmons. Well, we know that he passed away. He had kind of gotten out of the mainstream of social media, right? He got kind of out of the mainstream, but we found out he passed away, and it was very shocking to me. But now it's been exposed that his cause of death is believed to have been related to falls. He was having frequent falls. And so we'll go ahead and roll that clip, and we'll talk about falls. But as we do, make sure you go ahead and like and share this video. Let YouTube know that we're here giving evidence-based information.
He shared a statement establishing the details of how Richard died. This morning, Richard Simmons' brother Lenny received a call from the LA coroner's office. The coroner informed Lenny that Richard's death was accidental due to complications from recent falls and heart disease as a contributing factor. The toxicology report was negative other than medication Richard had been prescribed. Esty also expressed gratitude for the public's condolences, adding, "The family wishes to thank everyone for their outpouring of love and support during this time of great loss." Simmons had been out of the spotlight for many years before he died, but he was still quite active, particularly on Facebook, where he routinely interacted with fans and friends. The fitness guru also sat for an interview with People on July 11th, just 2 days before he died. His 76th birthday was the following day, July 12th. Simmons, who was beloved for his positive attitude and seemingly boundless energy, was in great spirits on his birthday. He wrote a long post on Facebook about his many previous birthdays and shared tidbits of his life story. He ended the post with a message for his fans saying, "So many of you have sent me birthday wishes on my Facebook and other platforms. I really appreciate that. I don't know when your birthday is, but I wish you a happy and healthy birthday." Given those warm sentiments and expressions of joy, Simmons' death the following day was even more sad and confusing. Esty shared his shock and grief in an Instagram post, writing, "Today I lost a best friend, a confidant, a cheerleader, a family member, and a client. The world lost an angel. I've known this amazing and kind and loving man for 32 years. Tonight is the first night in years that I didn't get a call asking about my day and wishing me a good night's rest and to sleep with my angels. Tomorrow morning, that morning call won't come." TMZ has specified at least one of the falls Esty referred to in his statement, noting that Simmons became dizzy and fell in his bathroom on the night of July 12th. His housekeeper urged him to go to the hospital, but he refused because he didn't want to go to the hospital on his birthday.
According to published reports, he went to bed early.
He said if need be, he'd go the following day. By the next morning, it was too late. TMZ also reported that the official death report and autopsy have yet to be released publicly. On the last day of his life, Simmons seemed to be in a good place, doing what he loved, reaching out to others. He posted on Facebook how he appreciated the outpouring of love from his friends and fans, writing, "Thank you. I never got so many messages about my birthday in my life. I'm sitting here writing emails. Have a most beautiful rest of your Friday. Love, Richard."
I love me some Richard Simmons, y'all, and I love his hair. All right. Shador, did anybody in the chat say they remember Richard Simmons, or if they had anything particular that they liked about him, or if they liked any of his exercise tapes?
Yes. So Janetta.
Hi, Janetta.
Had to remember Richard Simmons.
Yeah.
Miss Angelia, hello.
Hi.
Also placed it 2. And Ada with an A, placed it 2.
All right. Hi, Ada.
Best memory, Dr. Frita.
Let me tell you, I
Favorite
just like
video.
that he was happy all the time. And I remember I used to think when I was a little girl, like, okay, this man is really bubbly and happy all the time. Okay, I love it. He's got his little shorts. He's got leg warmers. He is a white man with the afro. I'm here for it. He had joy. I'm gonna do all kinds of exercise. And then as I got older and started living life, and I realized, ooh, people have sad days. And I looked at him, he was so happy all the time. And then by all accounts, even though I'm sure as all humans, he's had sad days, it really does seem like for everyone who's known him over the decades in Hollywood, that he really was a genuine, caring person. It seems like that really is who he was. And I just like that. I like that he always seemed like he was looking to bring the light up in other people. And so here's my particular thing that I remember about him that I really like. He had a video, an exercise video called Sweating to the Oldies. And in that video, I don't know when it was, my mama had the video, but in that video, the VHS tape, shout out, put a 3 in the chat if you remember VHS tapes. My kids don't know what those are.
No,
they only know about CDs, DVDs, DVRs, MP3s, DirecTV. I don't know. But my mama had a VHS tape, Sweating to the Oldies. And instead of just having people who had commercially attractive, model-esque bodies, you know, with all of these bodies that for many people aren't realistically or easily attainable, he had people of all sizes. And he was the first person I saw to do that, where he really embraced the people, because, you know, he's doing the videotapes of fitness. He's aiming them for people who, yes, some who are trying to maintain fitness, but also those who are trying to achieve fitness, who are trying to lose weight. So I love how he allowed people to see people who looked like them. If you were someone who was living with being overweight or living with obesity, that was really a groundbreaking thing. So I like that about him. Bump the aesthetic that the higher ups may have told him. He put in people who had real bodies. They didn't have abs of steel, and he had Sweat into the Oldies, where he had good music and he had his short shorts and his leg warmers and his afro. And I just like me some Richard Simmons. All right. And so now let's talk about some of the falls, because this is what I want to do. We're going to talk about fall precautions, because we know that Richard Simmons was of a certain age, right? He was in the 70s when he passed away. And for those of us who are, for us, Shador, we have patients who are of older ages for sure. And so we're just constantly dealing with fall risks, because we know as you get to an older age, you're at a higher risk for falling. But then those of us who are in that sandwich generation, where you have kids who are, older teenagers are going to college, and you have parents who are starting to slow down in maybe in their 70s, and they have fall risks. You might have people with fall risks all around you. And so we're going to talk about fall prevention, because guess what? Falls are a leading cause of injury among older people. Okay. And so I'm going to give you some things today that you may not have thought about, that you can implement in your homes or in your loved ones' homes or in your parents' homes, or you can suggest to people who you think might be at risk on how they can prevent falls, because falls are the leading cause of injury among older people. They can be life threatening. Absolutely. As we see in the case of Richard Simmons. So as I get ready to go into the fall prevention, I want people to tell me what you think some of the risk factors might be for falls. What are some things that may be going on with the person's health, age, the body, that might put them at risk for a fall? So put that in the chat, please, what you think are the risks, and then I'll go ahead and talk about some of the damages that can happen from falls, and then we'll talk about the prevention on the other end. Okay, so while you put the risk factors in the chat, let's talk about what can happen when you have a fall. So one thing for sure that can happen, head injury, right? So people fall all the time, right? Babies fall, teenagers fall. You've seen kids. I've seen my kids take some wax to their head, and I'm like, oh shoot, do I need to take them to the ER? Is this the end? Do they need surgery? And then the kids get up and run around like nothing's happening, like they never fell, right? We see different levels of people hitting their heads, but things get more serious as you get older, because you're at an increased risk for a brain bleed. And this is why. You have certain veins in your head, okay, that attach the skull. And as you get older, everyone's brain shrinks, okay? Spoiler alert, it just happens. Our brains atrophy, they get a little bit smaller. And as the brains get smaller, then those veins start to stretch and get a little thinner, right? That makes sense. If you have a brain that's filling up your skull, and then the veins that are attaching a part of the skull to a part of the brain, they'll be like maybe this long, right? They'll be nice, short, thick. But as the brain shrinks, then those veins might stretch, if that makes sense. Well, that makes those veins more susceptible to injury. So if you fall, instead of you having a nice full brain that's right close to your skull, then if your brain that's now a little bit smaller might shift some, and you might actually tear those veins and get a hematoma, specifically a subdural hematoma, a brain bleed. So here's the trick with the subdural hematomas. They don't always cause symptoms right away. So you might see an older person who has a major fall. Are you okay? Are you okay? And they're like, they're fine. They don't lose consciousness. They get up, they go ahead, they start walking about their day. They get tired of going to the hospital, because if you're a daughter like me or a niece like me, if something happens, you're like, go to the ER, go to the ER. But people get tired of going to the ER, right? So the older person might tell you, leave me alone. I'm fine. I'm fine. But guess what? If in that fall, they cause some of those bridging veins to tear, okay, and they have a bleed, it might be a slow, subtle bleed, And so they may not actually get symptoms until weeks after, right? And so they're sitting there, and they may all of a sudden get confused, maybe get gradually more confused, or start to lose balance, or start to forget, or start to have fall. And as that brain continues to slowly bleed, it can lead to death, okay? So I say that to say falls can have fatal consequences, especially in older people. Older people are at higher risk for subdural hematomas. So if you have someone who has frequent falls and you don't want to be told off by the elder in your family, sometimes you might have to risk being told off and have them go to get the ER to get their heads imaged, because if they get a CAT scan of the head, then that can show if there's a brain bleed, and they could potentially get the help that they need with the neurosurgeon, where they have to drain the bleed. So that's just one of the major injuries that can happen with an older person with the fall. One of the other ones, hip fracture. You can fracture all kinds of bones from falling, but a hip fracture or a fracture of the femur, that long bone of the thigh, kind of up towards the hip, that is associated with a lot of morbidity and mortality. In other words, hip fractures can be associated with not only decreasing the quality of life, but they can be associated with hastening a person to the end of life. Just simple falls, having a misstep off of a curb, losing your balance. So these are just a couple of the injuries, the major injuries that can happen with older people. Now, Shador, did anyone put any of the risk factors for a fall? Because I want to hit on that, and then we'll go into fall prevention. And make sure you give us a thumbs up, give us a like, please, as you come on into this room.
Absolutely. So Dr. Frita, T chosen. Well, we say at the watch T chosen.
Hi, T chosen.
Low blood pressure.
Absolutely. So I'm glad you brought up low blood pressure, because low blood pressure certainly can make you lightheaded and make you fall. But let's talk about some of the reasons people might be having the low blood pressure. It could be chosen from a heart condition, right? If you have bad congestive heart failure, then that can cause your heart not to pump adequately enough, and you can end up with low blood pressure. Or if you're on too many blood pressure medications. Here's the trick about blood pressure medications. Many people, especially older people, have multiple doctors, right? They might have their primary care doctor and their diabetes doctor or their endocrinologist. They might also have a kidney doctor like me, their nephrologist. They might have a heart doctor, right? They might have lots of different doctors. And sometimes if a patient walks in, their blood pressure is high, the doctor will give them a blood pressure medicine, right? Makes sense. But sometimes that medication list starts to get a little long, and each doctor is not necessarily going over it, or they're not aware. If you see a primary care doctor and they don't see you again for 6 months, they don't know necessarily that other people have started your medicine or that the ER gave you medicine. And so sometimes patients are taking too many blood pressure medications, which can lead them to low blood pressure, and then to the reason you gave T chosen, falling. So definitely low blood pressure is a risk factor. Here's the other thing. A lot of times people are losing weight, right? Your doctor might encourage you, lose weight. Obesity is putting you at high risk for heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, arthritis, you name it. So folks are out here, they've got all kinds of resources, they're losing weight. Or sometimes if you're an older person, especially if you're dealing with memory loss, dementia, your appetite might decrease. And even if you don't have dementia. But one patient told me one time when she was losing weight, and I'm like, oh, you're not eating, what's wrong? Are you sad? She said, Dr. Fisher, at this age, I take I want to taste. Food just doesn't interest me anymore. And that happens with a lot of older patients. They just end up losing weight. Well, here's the issue. When you lose weight, that decreases your need for the dosages of blood pressure medicine. In other words, for every about 2 kilograms of weight you lose of fat, or maybe close to like 5 pounds, for every 5 pounds you lose, your blood pressure might decrease by 10 points or 5 to 10 millimeters mercury. What does that mean? You might need to come off some medicines. But if you're losing weight at home and your doctor's appointment is not for another few months, you might be losing weight on the same dose of medicine, and now you have low blood pressure and you don't know it. That's why it's important also to monitor your own blood pressure at home. When you finish watching this live, make sure you watch my video on how to monitor your blood pressure at home properly right here on this YouTube channel. So that was a great one. Yes, low blood pressure is a risk for falls. Any other risk?
To counter T chosen, a lean, high blood pressure.
So high blood pressure can be a risk for falls as well. That's going to be if you get into a situation where you're having some symptoms from high blood pressure, like if you're having dizziness because of the high blood pressure, or God forbid, if you have a brain bleed because of the high blood pressure, then that could be a risk as well. So that's good. Yeah, both are true. Two things can be true at the same time. Yeah.
Petra. Hello, Petra.
Oh, and going back to the high blood pressure, if the high blood pressure is also causing you to have blurry vision, right? That blurry vision might cause you to misstep or not see a coffee table that's in your way because you have hypertension causing blurry vision. So the symptoms of hypertension can put you at risk for fall. That's good. Now who is this here?
This is Petra.
Hi, Petra.
Petra says osteopenia and osteoporosis.
Osteopenia and osteoporosis. Ooh, where do I begin? Absolutely. And that certainly is going to put older people at risk, because what might happen if you have so osteopenia and osteoporosis. So in and of themselves, they're not going to directly necessarily put you at risk for the fall. Osteoarthritis, right? That's causing the pain in your joints. But here's the osteopenia, osteoporosis part that's really, really important. older adults tend to have the osteopenia and osteoporosis. When we say osteoporosis, that's a certain level of the bones losing their thickness, their density, their strength, right? And osteopenia is just kind of the prelude to osteoporosis, right? And so you see a lot of older people who have the kyphosis, scoliosis, where their backs are hunched over and those bones are really, really weak. And there are different things you can do. We do DEXA scans. There's certain scans. Talk to your doctor about how to screen them if you have them. So here's the connection between falls and the osteopenia, specifically osteoporosis. If you have a fall and you have osteoporosis, that's going to greatly increase your risk for a bone fracture, okay, for breaking your bone and having one of these hip fractures that I talked about, or rib fractures or other fractures. So yes, as far as the fall risk, it's going to be more the osteoporosis, there and the other things that we talk about. But if you have osteopenia and specifically osteoporosis, really weak bones, that puts you at a really high risk for the breaking of the bones, which we know can happen more frequently with older people. Thank you.
Yes.
And Petra, isn't that a singer or a rapper from back in the day? Didn't she sing "Pull Up to My Bumper, Baby"? I don't know. I think that is Petra. Petra, is that you? All right. Who else?
You touched on this just a little bit. It's Ada.
Hi, Ada. Dementia. Okay. Yep. So we definitely need to get into that. Anyone who knows someone, if you're living with someone with dementia or memory loss, then you have witnessed firsthand that patients with dementia, especially as it gets advanced, can be at a higher risk for a fall. Put a 4 in the chat if you have a loved one or you're dealing with dementia some kind of a way. Because if so, then you'll know what I'm talking about. So as far as the dementia, it can affect all kinds of different systems, right? And it can cause you to have balance that's poor, or you may shuffle your feet and quite honestly forget to lift your feet and step up properly, right? It can have you in a situation where you're looking kind of straight ahead and you forget to scan the room and look down for different things that can be obstacles and can make you fall. And oftentimes also with the dementia, your appetite may decrease and you can get weak muscles, right? And lose your balance, and that can make you fall. Or you can also have like a Parkinson's dementia, or one of the ones that has the physical neurological deficits that are more obvious to see, like the tremor, okay, and also that unsteadiness. So absolutely, having dementia does put one at risk for falls. So if you have anyone in your family, a loved one, a parent, a grandparent with dementia, you definitely want to stay tuned and listen to these fall prevention tips I'm going to give to make sure that your loved one's living space is healthy and one that won't put them at risk for a fall. So that's a good one. Did anyone put a 4 for dealing with dementia, knowing someone, loved one who's dealing with dementia? Any 4s in the chat?
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
Louise. Who do you have? Hi, Louise.
Louise put a 4, and then V.E. Hall says 4, my 93-year-old mom.
Oh, I'm sorry that your mom is living with dementia. 93 is pretty cool. I'll tell you that. Hi, V.E. Hall. So then firsthand, you probably watch and you're just like, and you have to kind of get everything in order because the fall could come. And then some of those things like a brain bleed, bone fracture. And at 93, I'm not saying that she has it, but 93 does put people at a risk for the osteopenia, the osteoporosis that we talked about a little earlier. Good. Anyone else with a 4?
Yeah, Auntie Bev.
Hi, Auntie Bev.
She says, my mother has dementia. She is in a facility and has several falls. Her appetite changes.
Yep. And oftentimes it does get to the point where and everyone has their own situation. If you have someone who's living with you who has dementia, especially advanced, and there used to be this thing, and I know there's still this thing in a lot of cultures, and they're like, oh, I'm never going to send my mama to a nursing home. I'm never going to send my mama to a facility. But there can come a time when keeping your parent out of a facility, you may be doing them harm, because unless you can be right there with them, on them for 24 hours a day, then you could be putting your parent at danger. So each person has to deal with their own situation, because there are a lot of people who have, you're in the sandwich generation. Again, you have the kids who are older teens or young adults, parents who might need you, but you're still in the age, like if you're saying your 40s, 50s, 60s, you need to go to work. And if you're going to work, then you can't be there 24 hours. So I'm glad you actually mentioned facility, because I spend a lot of time with patients and talking to caregivers and telling them sometimes it's time, but if you do have a parent in the facility, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So they need to know that you will pop up or have someone pop up randomly so you can pay attention and be an advocate. if they are rolling their eyes when they see you go to visit your mama, then you're doing a good job. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't, have integrity. Many do, but some people kind of need to be micromanaged. All right. So I pray your mama does well. 93 is pretty cool, but yeah, the dementia will put you at risk for falls. Who else?
I'll touch on this one, and we can go. This one can kind of lead us to the safety measures to prevent.
Okay.
I believe this is from TS.
Yes.
A big risk of falling is no one finding you or knowing that you are down. Also, falling while in the shower or tub.
Very good. Okay. So slippery showers, okay, definitely puts you at high risk. And yes, if you don't have a system in place, which many people don't, if they don't understand that these people who are high risk, then you can fall and be down for days or even pass away when no one finds you. I have several examples, but there's a patient, Shador, I know you know who I'm talking about, who fell, and even once she woke up, she could not move. She couldn't crawl to her phone. She couldn't get to her cell phone, to the house phone, and she lived alone, right? She's in her 70s. She lived alone, and thankfully, one of her friends was like, I haven't heard from her for a while. It's not like her not to call back. And her friend went, did a well check, had the police come break her door down, and she was able to live. But there are many stories, and some of you, I'm sure, have heard them, where it goes a different way. You fall, no one finds you, and you're found alone in your house. I say this to say, a lot of folks are private, right? And they might be grown. They may, be single. They may be, a widow or something, or they just want you out of their business. And so they don't tell you, their daily happenings going in and going out. But if you're someone who lives alone, even if you're a younger person, if you live alone and say you don't have a job that's looking for you every day, or you don't have certain best friends who you talk to every day, and you don't have, people in groups, they're not, where you're going to do your sorority or fraternity service projects every day. In other words, if you live alone and you're really not held to account from day to day, please, I recommend that you come up with a system where someone knows how to get into your apartment or your home, where they have a key, they have a code, or they know, if I haven't heard from this person in X amount of hours, I need to go looking, okay? Because being found down is a real thing. And also, if you have a high fall risk, and even if you do live with someone, they have these different life alerts. And talk to your insurance companies, talk to Medicare, talk to whomever to see what is available for you. Where if you fall, you can press that button and they'll send the ambulance, the police, honey, they'll send the whole brigade to your house to get you. But these are things to think about, because oftentimes you don't think about it until it happens, and it can happen too late. So I'm glad that point was brought up. And yes, Shador, I agree. This is a good time to get into the prevention, because we've gone over the fall risks. Okay. So if you heard one of these risks, then it might be you. So let me see. Did we hit on all of them? So of older age, that could be a risk factor. If you have a heart disease, okay, like atrial fibrillation, abnormal heart rhythm, that can put you at risk of kind of your heart goes into an odd rhythm and you are out of it. That puts you at a risk for a fall. If you have feet problems, okay, bunions, corns, calluses, where it's difficult to walk without hurting, that could put you at risk for a fall. If you have vision loss, we talked about that a little bit, where I said if you have hypertension that's causing blurry vision, but if you're getting macular degeneration, or if you don't have the right eyeglass prescription, then you can miss certain barriers and you can fall over those. Hearing loss, we know a lot of older people will get hearing loss. That can put you at risk because something might be coming your way, or there may be, something that's making noise, some kind of a generator that's right there. And if you heard it buzzing, then you would know not to walk there. But if your hearing is not good, you might fall over it. Osteoarthritis, okay, having the inflammation of the knees, having pain in that way. And of course, dizziness, confusion. All right, so those are some of the risk factors for falling. Now let's talk about fall prevention. Okay. And y'all can go ahead and put some in the chat also, if you have some ways that fall prevention. I'll mention a couple and I'll see if anyone chimes in, Shador. So one thing, go to your doctor. Go to your doctor, and this can help make it easy because we're already primed and ready, especially if you're an older person, or if you're someone who has some type of, if you have multiple sclerosis, if you have some type of an ailment that causes you to have neurological damage, and you've had a stroke, for example, go to your doctor and say, hey, I think I might be a fall risk. Am I fall risk? What can I do to prevent? So what you want to do when you go to your doctor, have them to go over your medications. Okay. Are you on 2 medications that are doing the same thing? Are you on too many blood pressure medications that might actually make you have a low blood pressure, like we talked about? Are you on sedatives? Okay, that can actually make you sleepy and put you at increased risk for falls. Are you on a medication that has a side effect of giving you a slow heart rate? Some of the blood pressure medicines, like the ones I prescribe, can give you a low heart rate, like metoprolol, toprol, labetalol, atenolol, Bystolic. So some of these medications are really great medicines, but if you're falling, you may need to make sure your doctor checks your heart rate, so you find out if a low heart rate is what's causing you to fall. Or you might have something called sick sinus syndrome or a symptomatic bradycardia, meaning a low heart rate that your doctor can help pick it up, your general doctor or your cardiologist. So make sure you find out about the medication. Some antidepressants. Child, a lot of people are on antidepressants. Some of those can put you at risk for falling. Okay, so that's one of the things for fall prevention. Go to your doctor and say, hey, which of these medications could put me at a higher risk for falling? And am I on too many blood pressure medications? What do I need to do? So that's one. And then you want to make sure that you do things that help your body to stay in order. So muscle weakness can put you at risk for falling. And, as we get older, our muscles can atrophy, where we're not as strong. Whereas if we have good muscles and we fall, you might throw out your arm and catch yourself really quickly, right? Or you might have thighs that are thick with muscle. And so even if you have a tough fall, it's less likely for you to have a hip fracture, right? Or a femur fracture, that long bone in the thigh, a thigh fracture, if you have thick muscles. So if you're someone who has muscle weakness, then talk to your doctor about an exercise program, because you have some people who avoid going to the gym because they notice they're falling more. They don't want to fool up with it. So then you can talk to your doctor and they can have you to see a physical therapist where they can come up with some safer exercises where you're less likely to fall, like water aerobics or chair aerobics or Tai Chi or yoga, things of that nature. All right. Anyone else so far, Shador, put anything in for some fall prevention? Fall prevention.
Oh, no, ma'am.
All right. So, but we did have, who was that? TS, who talked about the shower, falling in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you mentioned that one. That's a big one. And let me tell y'all something. You might know what I'm talking about. Okay. Put a 5 in the chat if you have proud grandparents, aunties, and parents who don't always tell you their business, or if they're having falls. Put a 5 if you got some proud aunties, uncles, grandparents, elders down to the church, parents who might fall and not tell you. If you do, make sure you share this video with them if you're dealing with someone who might be at risk for a fall, because showering, bathing, that's a big risk. One, if you have to step up into the bathtub, that can cause a fall, because if you're losing your balance or if you're weak, especially if you're an older person, then you might trip while trying to get into a tub. So in order to prevent that, if you're in a situation where you want to get some bars, okay? And talk to your doctor about an occupational therapist going to the house where you get some bars that are on the walls of the restroom where you have something you can firmly grasp. Don't grasp those little towel racks that are put in. Those aren't meant for your weight. Talk to your doctor or your occupational therapist about a good steady bar you can hold in like a side rail as you get into the tub. You also want a non-slip mat in the tub, and something else that can help prevent your risk is a chair. One of those good old chairs that's meant for the bath, so you can hold onto the good rail, step up, have something to help you to support your body, and you sit in that chair and you can shower there. Oh, how are you going to shower there when the shower head is so tall? Get yourself a movable shower head, one of those ones that disconnects. You can bring it down to you while you're in your chair. Okay. Scrub dub in the tub. Okay. So a shower head that you can move down, non-slip shower mat, bars. The other thing is a lot of people like to go and have these cute little rugs. Oh, these cute little rugs in the bath. Oh, you got the little pink fluffy ones, gray, mauve. You get a whole kit from Walmart, Target, from down the street, from Macy's, whatever. If you're at a fall risk, then what can happen especially if you're an older person and you get tired of picking your feet up and you're here shuffling your feet, well, you could trip over the rugs. So you want to try to avoid having these cute little puffy, slippery rugs not only in the restroom, but even throw rugs. You want to try to avoid them, or get that double-sided tape and you put it all around firmly on the rug to keep from tripping over the rug. Okay, so these are some of the things that can help to prevent you from having falls or slip and falls. So I'm glad that the TS brought up the slipping in the bathtub. What's some other things we can do for fall prevention? If you have osteoarthritis, okay, that's something you want to see your doctor about. And we're going to talk about that a little later, actually. And so we need to go ahead and get moving. But let me see if I can think of any other fall prevention. So getting the underlying risk factors taken care of, the vision loss, support for memory loss. not having a bunch of rugs, moving extension cords out of the way. If you have extension cords with all of your electronics, like I have around here, if you have someone who's at fall risk, move those extension cords out of the way so they don't trip. Move boxes out of the way. Coffee tables, forget it. Forget it. If you have someone who's walking in their field of vision is not what it used to be, they might trip over the coffee table. So you want to get rid of the coffee tables. Bottom line, consult with your physician. And if you're someone who is at risk for a fall, make sure you assess your risk with your doctor and you talk about fall prevention. Some people say, oh, getting older, falling is just a part of it. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be, or at least the safety can be in place.
Yeah. And
All
Angelia,
right.
speaking of safety in place, Angelia says that she wear her lifeline necklace when legs give out and a chance of falling.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I support it. That's good stuff. All right. We're going to move on to the next topic. Go ahead and make sure you like this video, share it, copy the link, share it with the people you care about. It's a free way to support the channel. We appreciate it. But now let's talk about weight loss medications. We know we're always talking about weight loss medications. You have people who are in the little circles who say, oh, I heard the medicine costs this bad side effect. I heard it costs that one. And you can ask me questions in the live Q&A section if you're wondering about side effects. But let's talk about one of the positive things. There has now been a study showing that one of these weight loss drugs, these GLP-1 agonists, can reduce your risk for diabetes by 94%. Now, how's that for a pro? Let's roll the footage.
Indianapolis-based Eli Lilly and Company says their popular type 2 diabetes medication could help prevent the progression of that disease. Lilly says the medication significantly cuts the risk of progression of diabetes by 94% in adults with prediabetes and obesity. They say a 3-year study also found people who took the injectable drug weekly had an average decrease in body weight of nearly 23%. Medication is approved in the U.S. as Mounjaro for diabetes and Zepbound for weight loss.
That's awesome. You heard it here. So make sure you consult with your doctor. If you're someone who's interested in a weight loss drug, please don't just order it off the line and do it yourself. You want to know all of the risks, the benefits, and there are certain things that can happen if you're taking the medication and you're not under the supervision of a physician. You can have side effects. So make sure after you finish watching this live, you watch my YouTube video right here on this channel on Ozempic. I also talk about Mounjaro, the tirzepatide, and I talk about the risks and the benefits and some of the true side effects that occur, and then also some of the very positive benefits from weight loss drugs. So if you go to the search bar on the YouTube, Dr. Frita Ozempic or Dr. Frita weight loss drugs, then you'll be able to see all of those details. All right, now let's get into Oprah. Oprah has shared that she has an urgent message as far as living life, living your best life. So let's roll that clip on Oprah and let's talk about some ways you can live your best lives.
When I was a kid, and I think it is because under the circumstances that I was living when I was a little girl in Milwaukee on welfare with my mother, and what I now know that if I had stayed in those circumstances, I probably wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here healthy and strong and vibrant.
Turning 70, is your concept of gratitude deeper than it was, say, at 60 or 50?
I would not say that it's deeper, Al, because I've been doing it for so long. I would say that there is a sense of knowing that there isn't as much time left, and I am at peace with that knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a sense of urgency for me, about living well.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's all about health. And I would say that, a couple of years ago, 2021, I had knee surgery in one knee, and I had been becoming more and more debilitated to the point where it was hard to walk down even 2 steps, just to get into the car. That pain. And when I finally went to the knee doctor and I said, I don't know, is it time? He goes, it's time if you want to continue walking. You like walking? It's time. It's time. And so I'd never been through surgery or, was intimidated by it. The best thing I've ever done. I really felt like I had a new opportunity to live inside my body in a way that I hadn't been able to for years, because being overweight and the being overweight causing the knees to be even worse. And
I've had both knees.
okay, so I'm talking to the choir here. Singing to the choir. Singing to the choir. My great gift, I will tell you, Al, my great gift is being able to live in the present moment. I think it's really one of it's the thing that brings me the greatest joy.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yes, because no matter what's going on in your life, you can compartmentalize and be just right here, right now. So I'm not a worrier. I will worry about the thing when the thing shows up.
Do you feel like you've done what you were put here to do?
I feel like it continues. I think until the last breath, it continues.
Ooh, I love that. Y'all, first of all, just disclaimer, I love Oprah Winfrey. Yes, I do. In times when she's in the media and people are on her, I'm not, because I have so much respect for her, for the life she's lived, for the service that she's done. And that message is so powerful, her not being a worrier, and I know my mama will always be like, if you're going to pray, don't worry. If you're going to worry, don't pray. When you can't change things, almost like the serenity prayer, then I guess it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have unnecessary worry. You can think about something with an action plan, but I just love that message that she gave, because not only is it great for mental health, it's also great for physical health as well, being present, being in the moment. And so as we move into the Q&A, which I want to just talk about ways to live your healthiest, happiest life. And y'all know I love giving a freebie. If you click the link in the description after this live, you'll see that I have a PDF, a free download, 10 healthy habits for a better you and a better life. And yes, I talk about some things to do physically, like exercise, drinking lemon water, but also being in that mental space, okay? Where you give yourself positive self-affirmations. You tell yourself everything that's positive going on. I know to some people it might sound, oh, foo-foo, child, what's she talking about? But the mind and the body are so connected. So I love her message that she gave. And so I want y'all to go ahead and get your questions together for the Q&A. We'll have time just for a few questions today. But in staying with being healthy and one of the healthy habits, I just got to show you real quickly this mom who came up with a salad bar at her house. And when I say she came up with a salad bar, it's like a real salad bar. And apparently she's able to do it in a way that's not super duper expensive. So let's play that and then come up with your questions. You can ask me about anything that we talked about today, be it Richard Simmons falls. We can talk about Oprah and those knee replacements. If you want to ask about osteoarthritis, kidneys, always high blood pressure. We'll play this clip. I'll take your questions. Oh, I don't hear it.
1 second.
At the gas station, it says, "Hey, tell me about your salad bar." And since all 5 million of you all are just like the lady at the gas station, wanting to know more about my salad bar, I'm going to go ahead and tell you before y'all start peeping through my windows. Hey there, beautiful people. So our salad bar is stocked every week with fruits, vegetables, you name it. This time I air fried some Brussels sprouts with some bacon. I boiled and peeled some eggs. My children ate about half of them already. I sliced a whole turkey breast that I got from Costco. Fresh peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, mushroom. I washed my lettuce, and then placed a paper towel down at the bottom of the container so as to absorb that moisture, keeping my lettuce fresh. Chopped up some fresh broccoli. One of the major questions I get is how often I keep this stocked and how long it lasts. I'll stock it once or twice a week, depending on how busy we are and how often we're eating from it. The top and bottom are refrigerated. I have a container in the bottom that holds bagels and cream cheese, just sandwich stuff. I have another container with fresh fruits, apples, pears, oranges, avocado. I wash my berries and put a paper towel at the bottom of a mason jar, seal those berries in those mason jars, and they last until my children eat them all. Got another jar with bacon bits, another jar that says jalapeno slices, but that's not what it is. It's marinated mozzarella. I keep cold plates in there. I've got a basket with all of our dressings and dips. I also keep some juice in there for my kids to grab. Yes, I let my children drink juice. Oh no. Anyway, I just stock it once a week with seasonal fruits and vegetables or whatever I can find on sale. Long before we invested in this salad bar, we used to have a salad bar in our refrigerator. It was the same concept, just on a smaller scale, because having fresh chopped fruits and vegetables vegetables readily available. A, gives us a quick meal option because the salad bar is always stocked and open. And B, my children are more likely to choose fresh produce if it's already prepped and ready to eat. If you are looking for containers to make an in-refrigerator salad bar, or if you'd like a standalone unit similar to ours, I have both in my Amazon storefront.
All right. I just thought that was a little neat way. So I'll take some questions. We don't have very much time for questions. So we'll choose the questions. And then if you're someone who's put in a super chat, we'll definitely get to yours. We'll prioritize your question. And so if you have any questions about our topics that we've talked about, anything kidneys, if you have a question about the salad bar, I love the concept. You don't have to give a disclaimer on the bacon and bacon bits. Those do tend to be high sodium, but everything in moderation. Also, some of the dressings, if they're already pre-made, they might have high sugar. So if you have any specific questions, but overall, I really like her concept of making the salad ingredients and the vegetables more accessible to the family. All right. Any questions, Shador?
Yes, ma'am, we do. So this comes for, I'll start with Petra. She says, good morning from beautiful Colorado.
Hi, from Colorado. Oh, that's on my list. My daughter wants to get to Colorado and she wants to go skiing. All right. What you got?
Is it okay to take creatine supplement before my gym workout with CKD2?
All right. So of course, everything I give here is information, is not medical advice. And so for your question about your body, I definitely recommend that you consult with your physician so they can tell you. So you already said that you had CKD2. So it's going to largely depend, is your EGFR 61 or is it 89? It's going to depend on the level. But here's what I would say in general about the creatine supplements. I deal with kidney patients every day, right? And oftentimes the creatine supplements, especially given that they typically don't have to be FDA approved, not only might they have creatine, they can have other substances as well that could be harmful to your kidneys. So my recommendation, especially if you already have even an early level of CKD, would just blindly for the general person would be not to take the creatine supplements. Again, consult with your physician and find out what it's felt, to be safe with you. But I find that there are so many other things that people can do that are more natural, okay? Like getting your vitamins, make sure your proper vitamin intake is in order, your proper protein balance, fruits and vegetables. And even though you may not see that quick fix or have the same exact amount of energy as with something like a creatine, it's not worth the risk of your kidneys. What I can also say is I have patients who've been on creatine, usually with a little more advanced kidney disease, and I'm seeing them at CKD stage 3. But guess what? CKD 3 starts somewhere. It starts at 1, goes to 2, and becomes 3. And so you don't want to hasten it. And so to the general public, I would recommend against taking creatine if you have any form of CKD. But again, my advice does not replace the advice of your physician. Consult with your doctor and understand that supplements, especially when they're not FDA approved, can have proprietary blends, meaning secret blends. If you want to know what we're talking about when we say CKD, chronic kidney disease, make sure you look up my video right here on this YouTube channel where we have over 750,000 subscribers. And I have a great video on CKD stages. So go to that YouTube search bar, put in Dr. Frita CKD stages, and you'll know exactly what we mean with the stages of CKD or chronic kidney disease. Thank you for that question. Talk to you, doctor.
Thank you, Petra. This next come from Sandra.
Hi, Sandra.
She's on 52, and a couple of weekends ago, my guy was chasing me, and I ran into the brick wall and bumped my left side of my head. It was very sore. Am I at risk of bleeding?
Doggone. This went from an exciting birthday, playful question into serious. Well, happy birthday. And you ran into a brick wall. So I have a few questions, and really these are going to be questions for you to talk to your doctor because, again, without being there to do a physical exam, I don't know. But here's some questions. Did you get dizzy? Did you lose consciousness? If either one of those things happened, if you got dizzy, you blacked out, then that means you could be at a higher risk for like a concussion or a contusion or a bruise on the brain. Okay. If you lost consciousness and then after a little bit, you were fine. Well, that could have put you at risk for an epidural hematoma, which is a very serious brain bleed, which, not to be gloom and doom, can be fatal. Okay. You may have heard of sometimes, players in little leagues will get hit in the head with the baseball and they could get epidural hematomas, which can lead to them not being alive. There have been people in skiing accidents. One famous action, I think Liam Nelson's deceased wife, died after a skiing accident with an epidural hematoma. But depending on how hard the hit was, especially if it was on the side of your head, kind of above your ear in that temporal region, that could put you at risk. I would definitely consult with your physician, get some type of a brain scan, especially depending on how long ago this was. And if you're someone, at 52, no, I don't consider that to be elderly, but 52 is not 32. If you ran into a brick wall, I say go to your doctor and get evaluated on if you need to have some type of a brain imaging. Happy birthday and be safe.
Thank you, Dr. Frita. And last question from Miss Marilyn. Hello, Marilyn.
Hi, Miss Marilyn.
Hi, Dr. Frita. In chat, I take blood pressure meds. It's okay to take apple cider vinegar. Also, I only take a teaspoon with water each morning to help curb appetites. So it's okay to do apple cider vinegar.
Okay, is it okay? Again, you want to consult with your physician, but I will give some general information on apple cider vinegar. And full disclosure, I take apple cider vinegar. I don't have a diagnosis of high blood pressure, and some of the data is limited, meaning no pharmaceutical company that I'm aware of has spent the millions of dollars on a huge randomized controlled trial on apple vinegar, because apple cider vinegar, is not a drug and it's not going to allow the pharmaceutical companies to make a lot of money. But there are different anecdotal studies and case reports that I study to show that there's some evidence to support the apple cider vinegar for some people can help you to have a lower blood pressure, can help to improve digestion. There are people who use apple cider vinegar as a toner for their skin, things of that nature. The most important thing to understand is won't hurt, might help in most cases. Now, the fact that you're already taking medications, you do want to make sure that you monitor your blood pressure at home. Again, check out my video on how to monitor your blood pressure at home safely, and also consult with your doctor. Because if you're one of these people where the apple cider vinegar seems to be having a result of lowering your blood pressure, then you may get to a point where you can be weaned off of some of your medications. In other words, I don't want you taking the blood pressure medications that your doctor prescribed and now adding the apple cider vinegar, which could have medicinal effects for you. And now you're someone whose blood pressure is too low and you're at risk for a fall. So, consult with your doctor. This is information, not advice, but I do find apple cider vinegar to be helpful for many patients, where I go ahead and recommend it to them. And of course I have access to all of their health and their blood pressure, and I do apple cider vinegar myself. So yeah, consult with your doctor, but I'm certainly not against apple cider vinegar.
All right. Lastly, Dr. Fisher, video recommendation request from Petra.
Okay.
Could you do a video about recommendations, what to do about osteoporosis?
Okay, I don't think I have one on osteoporosis. All right, Petra, that's going on the list, osteoporosis. And we already talked about how that can put you at a risk for a fracture if you fall. But I'll tell you what I do have videos on, some of the things that we touched on today. I have videos on heart disease. So if you go to my channel, you can search different playlists. You can do my playlist on kidney disease, where I talk about some of everything. I talk about kidney stones, kidney failure, foods that help to repair kidneys, blood pressure, a list longer than my arm, the videos I have. I talk about 9 power vegetables that are good for blood pressure, high salt foods to avoid, high potassium foods that are helpful for blood pressure. You can check out my playlist right here on this video, on this channel, the Dr. Frita YouTube channel. I talk about diabetes. I talk about lupus. I talk about the weight loss drug that I mentioned. Ozempic, is the holy grail, or is it some type of a fluke? It's a good video. Check that one out. And just most recently this week, or the end of last week, we released a video that, if I may say so myself, is very good. Thank you very much. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. 9 medications and drugs that can cause kidney damage. Just released that one a few days ago, and I'm very happy with the video, and I'm getting a lot of good feedback, because you'll find that a lot of the medications and drugs I mentioned in that video, you probably have taken. So check out that video. But osteoporosis, I'm gonna put that on the wish list of videos, and I appreciate the request. I also appreciate all of you who are here, who are watching. On your way out the door, make sure you like this video, share it, tell a friend to tell a friend. And if you want to ask me more questions, like for some of the things where I said, I can only give information, I can't give advice. Well, I actually would be able to give you advice if I could spend more time talking to you. And I have a service. I have a telehealth concierge service where you can click the link in the description, set up a time where I get your specific history, your specific medications, your specific symptoms. And I'm very happy to answer the questions for you in detail. So check out that service. And again, make sure you follow me on Instagram over there, and check out my weekend with my daughter who's in the Marching 100 FAMU. So proud of her. So proud of that HBCU. And again, I have all kinds of different content on there. I'm gonna put my other daughter on there too, who played flag football this week, and she got all kinds of interceptions. She got a pick six. Okay, I didn't know what a pick six was. I knew she got that ball from another team and she got a touchdown. Anyway, just check me out on Instagram at dr.frita. So if that's it for our questions, Shador, is that it for our questions?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and close this thing out, and I will see you all next Monday. I appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe to this Dr. Frita channel. Hit the notification bell so you'll be among the first to know when we release new content. Thank you very much. We'll see you next Medical Monday. I'm Dr. Frita. Bye, Shador.
Bye.